Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault 2, and I'm coming to you tonight with another First Impressions video. I know it's been a few days since I made a video on this channel. Once again, sorry. I've just been so busy and been trying to catch up on making videos for the main channel. But I literally just got back from the range from my typical Sunday night trip, and I reviewed two things for this week for me to make, I guess, proper range reports or product reviews on. And I want to share with you my experiences with those items. And then also, I wanted to talk about lever action guns. And I have a question for you guys, especially if you're more seasoned veterans of the lever actions. So let's talk about what I took to the range tonight. We were going to do two product reviews on two suppressors. And the first one is one that I have used in other range reports, but it was essentially an accessory to the gun that I was reviewing. But this time, we're going to do a dedicated video on it. The Knight's Armament 5.56 QDC CRS-PRT Suppressor. So a 5.56 suppressor. QDC means it has the quick detach little system here. And CRS is the Combat Rifle Suppressor. And PRT means that it is 3D printed. So, a lot to unpack there with the name. And I have reviewed three other Knight's Armaments 30 caliber suppressors. And this is going to be my first 5.56. This borrows some of the technology from the bigger ones. This one has this flow-through or low resistance baffle design. You can see from the end cap here, we have some openings around it. And that allows the gas to come out the front. Kind of reminiscent of the Huxworks or the OSS style suppressors. And this one I was not able to do, well, I would say a complete review on it because there was one test I had to skip over. Because the host weapon I have that has a, or I guess it's in for review, that has the proper muzzle device for this is an LMT Mars L shovel nose, essentially, and it's a piston gun. So one of the tests I do when I review suppressors, which I don't think you guys have seen any yet, those are going to come out literally next year, is I do a kind of a resistance test, and it's not really one that I can measure, but I try to tell people what I'm experiencing from behind the gun, especially with direct impingement ARs, because, you know, you always get a lot of gas that comes back out of the ejection port. And the whole point of these is to reduce that and to have all the gas, not all the gas, but most of the gas go out the front. And are these any different than a standard baffled suppressor? But because this was an LMT piston upper, it doesn't really have the same effect. So I skipped that test, but I'm going to extrapolate based off of my experience with the other Knight's Armaments that have this baffle system. It's pretty good. It's not great. It's not as good as the Huxworks or the OSS, but it definitely does reduce the amount of back pressure or the resistance. But everything else about it was fine. Very consistent suppressor, both suppressed, or I guess I should say, it's a consistent suppressor because when I shoot the firearm suppressed versus unsuppressed, it doesn't really change the ballistics all that much or the point of impact like some other suppressors do. And I think overall it has a pretty decent tone. Not the best. It is a smaller suppressor. And the baffles in here only go about halfway. I'm looking down at here, about here to here. So you don't really have a big expansion chamber for that gas. So the tone is pretty high, but this is supposed to be a smaller suppressor for, you know, CQB. Is it hearing safe? I would say it probably is, barely. But its tone is mid-range. So overall, it's an okay suppressor and pretty much performs like the other Knight's Armament suppressors that I have reviewed. The other suppressor that I took to the range, let me get it out here. Some of my bags. It's right here. Now, I've also used this on another range report on a Sig Sauer Rattler in 300 Blackout. But I wanted to do a dedicated video to just the suppressor, and this is the CGS Suppressors LLC, and this is the Hyperion K. So it's a 30 caliber suppressor, and this one is also 3D printed. Now, one of my concerns with this suppressor was it looks like it's 3D printed. And if you've ever held anything that is made on a 3D printer, it has these like lines on it where the additive manufacturing process builds on it. And sometimes if you ever look at like these small, I know, like little items that are made on 3D printers, they're pretty cheap. They feel flimsy and they're not as sturdy as a solid built item. And so I know that 3D printing technology has come a long way, but this has the look and the texture of a cheaper 3D printed item. Now, obviously, I did use this in 2 reviews, and it hasn't blown up or anything, so I guess it's sturdy enough. It's very, very light, but I am not very pleased with the look of it. And I don't know if this is going to come across here on the camera and the light. Maybe it does. Right there. You can kind of see how, I don't know, it looks like you can see where the material was maybe on a spool and it was threaded in there. You can see how it kind of looks a little bit rough. Right there might be a good shot of it. And then here on the side, see if I can get the texture of it. You can see how it's not smooth. And for me, it looks cheap. It looks cheap. I don't think the suppressor is cheap. But when I compare it to the Knight's Armament, which is also 3D printed, and we do get a little bit of that kind of look on it, this is more of the finish, this kind of bubbly area here. But if I turn it around, you get a little bit of it, but not as much. But I don't know. This one, it just doesn't look as refined. But it does work. My only problem with it is I was not able to review it, but not because of the suppressor, because it worked great on the SIG Rattler. I'm going to have to figure out a different host weapon, because tonight was going to be a video probably 8 or 9 years in the making. Because I want to show you a firearm from my collection that you might have never seen, because literally it's been in the back of my safe for 8 or 9 years. Years and years ago. Maybe even longer, 9 or 10 years maybe. Anyway, I wanted to build a 300 blackout AR-15. And this is way before I was ever in the NFA stuff. So I went with a 300 blackout with a 16-inch barrel. And this is the AR-15 that I built at the time. And for me, this is kind of a gun of its era because of the nature of what I put on it. Because in that time, it was kind of before M-LOK, or at that time, key mod was becoming popular. So I have a quad rail up here. This is a Yankee Hill machine. I think this is a Wilson Combat barrel. But I have a Spikes Tactical lower receiver and just some basic Magpul stuff. But this was a gun of its time. Very typical of probably the early 2000 teens. And I built it, and then recently, or shortly after building this, I ended up making my Seekins Precision 300 Blackout SBR. And I never got this gun to the range. I built it and just never got around to shooting it because I built something cooler. And so it sat in the back of the safe. And I decided to get it out tonight because when I'm reviewing these 30 caliber suppressors and 300 Blackout, especially when it comes to subsonic ammunition, I'll often have problems with ARs because I just don't have enough pressure to cycle the action. So I thought to myself, hey, I have this rifle I have literally never shot. This might be the perfect rifle for subsonic because of the dwell time. So we have a carbine length gas system. So right here is the gas block, and then we have all this barrel length past that. Now 300 Blackout pretty much expends most of its powder by about 9 inches. So about where the gas block is. But as the projectile is still leaving the barrel, we still have more pressure behind it for a longer period of time, which typically would help cycle the action, make it more reliable. So I thought this would be the perfect rifle for this review. And so I got it out, took it to the range, and I said, you know, maybe before I even put on the suppressor, why don't I just shoot this thing and make sure it runs? And I'm glad I did, because it doesn't run. So what I think the issue is the gas port is too small. So I started off with subsonics unsuppressed, and it didn't run. It was definitely short stroking. It felt like it was going back far enough, but it wasn't, because it wasn't picking up the next round from the magazine. So I thought to myself, okay, let me attach the suppressor, because this is not one of those flow-through suppressors. So maybe it would add enough back pressure to cycle the action. And when I do the review, I could talk about the back pressure in running subsonic ammunition. Well, I put on the suppressor and it still didn't run. Okay, so maybe I won't do the review on this gun, but maybe I can make it work if I can get the supers to work. So I loaded the magazine with a couple of supersonic loadings, unsuppressed, and it didn't work either. It was still short stroking. So then I attached the suppressor, and it did run. So I found out with supersonic ammunition with the suppressor, it will run. But because I'm having such malfunctions with it, I decided to forego that, bring this home, and I'll figure out what to do. So I have a problem that this is now like an 8-year-old gun that I've never shot, and it doesn't run. So I don't know. I'm running a standard weight buffer in this, so I know I don't want to run a heavier buffer. I don't know. I think maybe the gas port on the barrel is too small. So I'll have to, whenever I have time, I'll have to take this thing apart and figure it out. I'm a little bit sad and disappointed with that. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the trigger, which is just a basic mil-spec trigger, out of this lower receiver, and I'm going to put it into my Seekins Precision SBR, because I think I told you in the past, the reason I'm not using that as a host weapon right now is I have one of those binary triggers in it. It's the... which one is it? Fostech Echo trigger. And it does not run right. It does not run right. It's not even like I'm trying to run it in binary mode. I'll run it in semi-automatic. And the safety selector switch will come out of semi-auto and go halfway to binary. And then it like bogs down the action. So I think I'm just going to take the trigger out of this, put it in the Seekins, and have to use that as the host weapon. So that's what happened tonight. So this was kind of an incident 8 or 9 years in the making. And now I got this weapon here that I'm not 100% sure what the problem is. And I don't have time to really diagnose it. I'm pretty sure I'm using, just a standard weight buffer in it. So it's a light buffer. So that's going to give me the best results if I'm having, underpowered ammunition. But I don't know, everything else about it is pretty much stock and standard. I don't see anything, major with it. But it just could be the barrel is just not drilled out enough when it comes to the gas port. That's probably it. And I have discovered that some of the older 300 blackout barrels, when 300 blackout was kind of first hitting the market, the gas systems were not bored out enough. In fact, that's what happened to my Seekins Precision. The original barrel I had from them, I had to go to a gunsmith and have them bore out the gas port, and now it works. So I might just need to take the barrel off of this and go have that done, or just go in a completely different direction with this. Just buy a new barrel, either chamber this thing in 5.56 or find a different barrel for it. I don't know. What do you guys think I should do? I know some people are going to say having a 16-inch 300 blackout is silly and stupid because of, it's designed to expend all the gas by 9 inches. But I don't know. You guys tell me what I should do with this, okay? As I said, I'm pretty sure the gas port's too small. So I either just need to replace the barrel, have the gas port drilled out, or do something else with it. So tell me what you would like to see me do with this rifle in the comment section. All right, so that is my first impressions. One was a almost complete review of the Knight's Armament, and the other one I just have to hold off until I can get a better host weapon for. So now I have a question for you guys, okay? And it has to do with lever action guns, and it has to do with a comment I got on my main channel, and it was somebody commenting on my review of the Was it the Winchester model? Was it the 18? Oh, geez, 90. I forgot the actual model. 94? I forgot. I'm not a huge lever action guy. It's an older video. And one of the issues I had at the range is when I shot, I opened the lever or activated the lever. And when I brought the lever back in, I'm pretty sure my trigger finger got caught and the gun went off when I brought the lever back. I mean, the gun was pointed in a safe direction. I was at the range and so forth. But it kind of surprised me. And somebody in the comment section, and by the way, I totally owned up to my own mistake on that. I kept it in the video, and I, mentioned it there. And somebody in the comment section says, your problem is you keep your trigger finger or your finger in the trigger guard when you use the lever. So it got me thinking about lever action guns and how to use the lever. So I should have got out my Henry X series for this to kind of demonstrate. But I started watching other videos of people shooting lever action guns and where their finger is when they manipulate the lever. So I've noticed that people were doing what I was doing. So you shoot and your finger comes off the trigger, but not out of the trigger guard. Simply just kind of, you move it forward. You move the action, it comes back, and then you can fire again. But what I'm assuming other people are telling me to do is you fire, take your trigger out, put it on the side of the lever, move the lever, bring it back, and then put your trigger finger back in, and then pull the trigger. What is the proper technique? Tell me, how do I improve that? Because it's the only time I've ever had that issue. But when it comes to a lever action gun, what do you do with your finger when you're activating the lever and moving the lever? What do you do? Where does it sit? Do you push it all the way to the front of the trigger guard? Do you completely remove it? Tell me, what is the technique that you use? Now, I went and watched some of these cowboy action shooters. They keep their their fingers in the trigger guard, okay? I've seen some people shooting lever action slowly. They do the same thing. But people in that video are telling me my technique was wrong. So I'm here to learn from you. Tell me what I need to know. And I'll go with that. So there you go. So you guys can help me. And I also wanted to give you guys a little bit of first impressions information on, I guess, 2 suppressors, but really only one because it's the only one I was able to shoot. And then, of course, talk about this bad boy. Yeah, I got to figure out what to do here. I have a few guns that I actually have a lot of guns in my collection I've never shot. Some of them I've built. And it's like this one here, it's not even like that special or anything. It's not like, oh, I don't want to shoot it because it's valuable or anything. It's just an AR that I assembled 10 years ago. But I got to figure out what to do with this now. So, yeah. What do you guys think I should do with it? Tell me in the comment section. And if you made it to the end of this video, the word of the day is going to be spikes. Spikes, or spike, maybe singular or plural, because this is a spikes tactical lower receiver. There you go. So that'd be a hard word to use in a comment, but I know you watched to the end. So thank you for joining me here in the garage. I look forward to reading all of your comments and seeing what you guys think I should do with this and what I should do when it comes to shooting lever actions and how to improve my technique and what to do with this guy right here. So tell me in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.